Good afternoon, everyone. This is Richard Burke. I'm the Executive Director of Western Liberty Network, and we are doing these trainings in coordination with Parents' Rights in Education, and we're very proud to be working with them. Suzanne Gallagher and, of course, Greg down here, who's going to be watching the meeting today. And, of course, I'm glad to be with all of you, whoever may be watching live or maybe watching the recording. So today we're going to be doing a training on how to testify virtually, some tips about how to do that. Ever since COVID, before you used to have to testify in person, it was relatively rare to testify virtually, but now it's very common. And even though the COVID emergency is over, most school boards still allow for virtual testimony. And so we're going to train you how to do that a little bit better, maybe offer you some tips. This is an interactive training, so if you want to chime in at any point with a question or a comment, please do. I'm not a wait until the end of the session to ask your questions kind of guy, so chime in whenever you'd like. But before we dive into that, I would like to encourage all of you who may be watching this by recording or live to become part of the Parent Activist Training Center through the Parents' Rights in Education website. I'm going to share my screen and show you what that looks like. And we'll be referring to it periodically throughout this session. So if I share the screen, that comes up. This is what you see. This is, I'm going to close this window. This is in my way. This is what you see. If you have not been to this website before, when you go to parentsrightsaneducation.com, you will be asked to make an account. It's very simple to do that. It involves typing in your name, your email address, and once you get an account, you'll be able to go in and go to Parents and select the Training Center. And then go to the Training Center button. And you'll be here. Now, right now, there are two large instructional areas: how to effectively testify to your school board. Today's training on how to testify virtually is a part of that. And how to win your school board election. That's another area. And these two areas will be joined by others as these resources are developed. If you go in and see the course, like how to testify to your school board, click on see the course. You'll see a whole bunch more content. This is a video. I'll play it really quickly. I won't show the whole video, but I'll show you how it starts. And what this will do is this will tell you about Parents' Rights in Education, the Training Center, and about this area of instruction in particular.
Welcome to the Parent Activist Training Center and our course on testifying in front of your school board. Testifying at your school board meeting is a big decision. You want to make sure it's done correctly to make the strongest impact. While it's no easy feat to testify in front of your school board, the lasting effect could help thousands of people beyond the scope of your school district.
So you get the idea. This will give you sort of a summary of what is in this instructional area. And then you can go to these individual areas, know your board, understanding your issue. Today, we could be talking about virtually testifying. So if you click on that, there are a couple of topics and there's a quiz. Now, if you take the quizzes, if you go through these areas and you take each of these quizzes, your record, this will be credited to your user account, and you will be certified as a Parents' Rights in Education trained activist. It's like a little academy, and I really encourage you to do it. The quizzes are not hard, and if you go through the material, you'll pass them without any problem at all. So if you go to virtual testifying, this is what we have. And the whole section on how to testify virtually. It tells you some things to do. We're going to talk about this. And again, you have a video. This one is tailored toward this specific topic.
Welcome to the Parents' Rights in Education Parent Activist Training Center, where we're training you on how to virtually testify at school board meetings. Despite not being in person, it is still possible to deliver an effective testimony virtually. The first step in preparing to virtually testify is to go to the school district website, locate the page on the school board, and find the virtual testifying protocols and procedures.
And we're going to go over those things in just a moment. But the point is, you dig a little deeper, you'll find there's more and more content. And if you go through the content, you're going to find that you have a lot of information that you didn't have before. you'll have a broader skill set than you had before, and you will be more effective as a school board activist. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'll interact with you personally if you can take seeing my face for a while. And we'll go over some points about how to testify virtually. Now, the first thing that you want to do, as you may have heard on the video, is go to the school district website. I'm going to share the screen again because I already have preloaded here the Beaverton School District website. Let's see. Okay, right now you should see the Beaverton School District website. Every school district is going to be different. They're going to have a different kind of a web page. And so what I'm telling you here applies to Beaverton. It might not exactly apply to your school district, but all of the elements and features that I'm going to show you are here somewhere. You'll have to search for them a little bit, but they're all here. Now, like many school districts, they don't make things that are very easy to find. You are going to have to search a little bit in most cases. Interestingly, in a lot of small communities, the websites are a little easier to navigate and it's easier to find things. But in this case, I looked around a little bit earlier and I found that if you click on the menu, you can see information and there is school board. So I'm going to go to that website here. And here's the website about the school board. It talks about public testimony protocol and virtual public testimony. Read this very carefully because they will show you, this text will show you how to testify virtually. And it's going to be a little bit different with every school district, but you don't want to go in blind. You want to go in ahead of time. You want to research and find out how you testify virtually in your district so that you know what the proper protocol is. So when you go to the website and it says, you know, it tells you when they open and close this. If you're requesting to speak during a meeting, it asks you for your name, affiliation with the district, whether or not you live in the district, what your email address is so that staff can provide a Zoom link to the meeting, and a comment on your topic. So you're going to request to speak before the meeting. And if you have questions about this and you don't know what the procedure is, call the school district and they will tell you what to do. But there is a window to request to testify, in this case, that opens on Thursday at noon prior to the board meeting and closes at noon on the day of the board meeting. And the requests are collected. So you're going to go on this website and you're going to request to speak, and you're going to provide this information: name, affiliation, district residency, email address, and what it is you want to talk about. And they say that 5 spots are reserved for virtual comments. If more than 5 requests are received, speakers will be selected as described below. And they talk about all of that. So this is how Beaverton School District manages virtual testimony. Your school district may vary. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing the screen. Okay. The next thing you want to do is make sure you've got the right software. If you are participating in this training session now, you already know how to use Zoom. And Zoom is, you know, already loaded on your computer. So if your school district uses Zoom, you're already equipped. But not every school district uses Zoom. Some of them use Microsoft Teams, which is a completely different program. Now, the program is free, but you have to go to the Microsoft Teams website and you have to download it. Sometimes this product is already installed, prepackaged on a Macintosh or a Windows unit. If you run Linux like I do, you have to go and get it and install it yourself. But anyway, make sure you know what software they are using and make sure that you have the same software. Google also has a conferencing software system that some school districts may use. There are several possibilities. Some very small school districts, believe it or not, are still using a version of Skype. So make sure you've got the right software, and then test your setup. I've seen a lot of people attempt to testify virtually, but it didn't work. They couldn't get their microphone to work, or they couldn't hear, or the camera didn't work correctly, or they didn't have the right software and they ended up not testifying at all. So you want to plan ahead. The key to testifying virtually in a successful way is basically pre-planning. So you're going to go to the school district website, as we just showed, find out how they do their virtual testimony, find out what software they use, find out what the procedures are for getting in line to testify virtually. You find all of that out in advance. Then when you're finished with that, you go to your computer and find out if you've got the right software. If you don't have the right software, you get it. All of these conferencing packages, Google, Skype, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, they're all free. They're all available free of charge, but make sure you install it. Now, once you've installed the software, test it, make sure it runs, but also make sure that your microphone is connected to the software. Sometimes there are multiple sound sources on your computer, like when you play CDs on your computer, or if you are listening to YouTube videos, and then there's your microphone. And of course, likewise on the video, you might have a video capture device, so you can capture things on television. You might have your camera, right? Now, when I log into my Zoom, I had to change my default because it didn't go to my camera. It went to my television capture device. And so whatever I was watching on TV is what Zoom was sending across, the video. And likewise, I had to switch the default sound device. I had to use the microphone. I had to tell it to use the microphone on my camera instead of using the sound system that is connected to the CDs I play on my computer. So you want to do that. A lot of these programs, when you're in the configuration, they will let you test it. Most of them, if you're testing the microphone, there'll be a little bar graph that moves in time with your speech. And if your microphone is configured correctly, then you'll see that moving as you speak. And there are usually buttons you can click on that'll test your speaker. Left, bing, bing, right, bing, bing. And you'll know that your speaker system is connected to the software. So, these things, I'm making them sound more complicated than they really are, because the software has actually gotten to the point where it's much easier to use than it used to be. You just have to go into the preferences or edit, and then, once you go into the preferences and edit, you've got a variety of other options with respect to microphone, sound, virtual background, and all of those kind of things. So make sure you test it, make sure it works. And that way, when it's time for you to testify, you're not going to be tripped up by your own technology. Excuse me, another thing you want to think about is your production value. You want to look as good as you can for your speech. There are some things, some guidelines that you can follow. One thing is make sure that you're illuminated okay. Make sure that the light is across from you. Like right now, sunlight is coming in through a window that's in front of me, and the light is coming from the window to my face. And so you can see my face is illuminated. If my illumination was behind me, then you would see me as a shadow, and the things behind me would be bright. Or if the illumination was above me, you might see shadows kind of facing downward from my eyebrows and my chin and my nose. You want your face to be illuminated as well as possible. So try to make sure that you have a light in front of you. If you go to Walmart and you want to be serious about this and you expect to do a lot of virtual testimony, there are these ring lights you can buy. They're not very expensive. They're like between $30 and $50. And they illuminate you from in front, and you can adjust the light a little bit so that the color is right. I actually don't like my color very much. I look a little bit harsh and pasty because of the sunlight that's coming in. I like a little bit softer light, but you can set it up the way you like, but make sure it's in front of you and not above you or behind you. Otherwise, you'll just be this silhouette talking to the board and to whoever's watching you. Another thing you want to think about too is where the camera is. A lot of people make the mistake of using a laptop computer with the camera built into the laptop without elevating the laptop. Now I'm going to move my camera around to show you what I mean. Okay, so here's my camera. Now, if I had a laptop, my camera would be right here, and I would be talking like this. And obviously, it kind of, shows my double chin, and the shadows are a little weird, and I have to keep doing this to make eye contact with the folks. So what you want to do is put a box under your laptop, or else if you have a movable camera like I do, put it on a little tripod or set it on top of your monitor the way that I do. Mine's designed to sit on top of the monitor, and that way you're at eye level with the camera, and that helps a lot. If it's above you, sometimes people like it a little bit above, but for me, I think this works well. Do what you think looks the best for you. Also, you want to make sure that you're dressed appropriately. Now, I'm very informal tonight. If I was testifying in front of a local school board, I might have a shirt and a tie. It doesn't have to be, too much. If it was a full-blown suit and you're testifying virtually, I've noticed that a lot of people think that's a bit much. Of course, it's up to you, but you want to dress in a way that sort of underscores the credibility of what you say. You want to make sure that your opinion is taken seriously. And so based on the standards in your community, dress in a way that doesn't look too formal, but doesn't look too casual, and make sure that you will be taken seriously. Another very important thing to think about is distractions. It's sometimes hard. If you're testifying from home and you have small children around, or you have a dog or a cat, I've seen cats walk across the screen. I've seen dogs come up and start barking if the telephone rings or someone rings the doorbell. I've seen people testifying while babies are crying. It's not always possible to eliminate all of these distractions. People are busy, and when they're testifying virtually, it's usually because they're busy and because it's difficult for them to get away from home and go testify in person. But do the best you can. If you can, talk to your children, tell them that mommy or daddy is going to be busy for the next couple of hours. Or, if it's very important, get a babysitter, or ask your spouse, or, your teenage son or daughter to look after the kids, make sure the dog and the cat are in the other room or that they're outside. The point is you're going to want to minimize your distractions. Turn off your cell phone, which is something that I actually forgot to do today. I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to go into my cell phone and I'm going to turn off the speaker. And so now I know that I won't be interrupted for this training because of my phone. Do what you can to look as presentable as you think you need to, that you minimize the distractions, that you're well illuminated, and that your camera is appropriately placed. Now, if I turn off my Parents' Rights in Education virtual background, and I'm not sure if I can do that while I'm in the middle of a call. I think I can. I'm going to try that now. I'll go to virtual, and what I'll do is I will change that to none. Well, what you see is a green screen. This is the green screen that I have. Now, green screens are great for virtual backgrounds. I can be anywhere. If I wanted to be on Twin Peaks television show, I could do this. If I wanted to be on the surface of Venus, I could do this. Virtual background is a really great trick. If I want to be floating around in the middle of space, I can do that. But no, I'm going to go to Parents' Rights in Education. I see Greg sort of laughing with this cup. He knew I was looking for an excuse to do that. And believe it or not, I found one. So anyway, your computer program, whether you're using Skype or whether you're using Zoom like I am now, or whether you're using Microsoft Teams, they provide for a virtual background. And you need a green screen in back of you to make full use of this. Some software can do it without a green screen, but it usually doesn't work very well. Now, green screens, I spent about $150 for this one, but you don't have to do that. If you want to, you can go to an arts and crafts store and get that big green paper. It's like butcher paper, but it's about 3 feet long or so, and you can tape it together on the back, and you can actually make your own green screen out of that paper, and that works just fine. But the whole idea is, if you are testifying, you want your face to look good, you want your lighting to look good, but you also want to have a nice background. If I were at home right now, I would have an open closet with a bunch of shirts hanging up. I don't want people to see that. I don't want people to see, if, whatever is in my house. If you're in a room where you have like a shelf of books, or you're in a home office or something like that, then that should be fine. But if you want to, you can use a virtual background, and you can make it look like anything you want. I think they had a lot of fun with that. If you've ever seen the movie Wayne's World, when they were producing their television show, I think they ended up in Delaware. And they said, "Look at me, I'm in Delaware," but you can do anything. So that's really awesome. Some other tips that relate to testifying virtually, or even if you're not testifying virtually. A lot of folks have written materials that they want to hand out to members of the school board. What I would recommend is that you contact the school district office and ask them how you can distribute the written materials that support your virtual testimony. They will usually tell you how many copies they want and how to get it to them. Usually they want to get PDFs. They'll give you an email address to which you can mail PDF documents, and the administrator should print them off and provide copies of those PDF documents to each member of the school board and each member of the staff that should have them. Make sure this is done in advance, so that they have it in their agenda packet and they're able to look at those materials. If you are testifying on short notice, impromptu, you can, go ahead and usually send a PDF document through the software. For example, the chat function in Zoom allows somebody to send a document. You can do that, but that's not recommended, because usually during the meeting in real time, the board members don't have time to look at the documents, and you'll be lucky if they look at it afterwards. They usually look at it in their agenda packet before the school board meeting. So do what you can to contact the school district office. Make sure, say, "I'm Richard Burke, I want to testify at next Wednesday's school board meeting. I understand these are the protocols. Is there anything else I should know?" Okay, and I've got some written materials that, my testimony is going to support. I don't have time to go over those with my 2 or 3 minutes that you give me, but I'd like them to have this document. How can I get them to you? What's the email address? Can I send you PDFs? Send them that information. And then when you testify, you're probably only going to get 2 or 3 minutes. That's all they give anyone, really, unless you're invited testimony, or if you're testifying, in person or virtually. Now, at last week's training, the video we did on how to testify, we talked a lot about time limits, how you should make sure that you're not going to go over your time limit, and that if you have more to say, you should break up what you're saying among 2 or 3 different people, whether they're testifying virtually or whether they're testifying in person. Because I'll tell you, I've been on these boards and I've presided over these boards. And if there's a controversial meeting and there are 50 people lined up to testify, and everyone gets 3 minutes, you want everyone to be able to testify, because they're going to leave angry if they don't get to talk. And if someone goes over their 3-minute time, what they start thinking is, boy, I need to get them off. If I give this person more time, I'll have to give everybody more time. And but I don't want to be rude, because I'll look bad if I'm rude to this person. So what do I do? And they will eventually shut you down. But the point I'm saying is, once you hit that time limit, the board members aren't really listening to you anymore. They're thinking about how to get you off the microphone so they can go to the next person. You don't want that to happen. And it's also going to leave them with an unfavorable impression as you leave, when you finally do finish. So make sure that you stay within your time limit. And if you have more to say, get people to testify with you, form a team, and in advance, you can say each person will cover a different aspect of what you want to say. And that way you'll be able to cover everything without going over the time limit. So I also want to stress that if you can, testify in person. Nothing is more effective than testifying in person. If you testify in person, you'll be able to look your school board members in the eye. And that just has a tremendous benefit. A lot of times with school boards, they will project you on a screen that is behind them, and they don't even see you, right? You know, and the crowd can see them, and public television, you know, public access can see them, and the newspaper reporters can see them, but a lot of times the board members themselves can't see them. It's good to look them in the eye. Also, if you're there as a member of the community in person, you'll sometimes find allies. People will come up to you afterward and say, I liked what you said. How can I help? That happens more often than you might think. You're also more likely to be on public access television. People do watch, not very many, but the ones that do, they're voters. You want to connect with them. And sometimes there'll be a newspaper reporter in the audience, and they might come up to you and say, that was interesting what you said. Can I get a couple of statements from you? And boom, you're in the paper. So testifying in person is the best thing you can do. But in reality, we know that that doesn't always work. If you can't find a babysitter, you want to testify, but you just can't make it, or you're out of town, or something like that, virtual testimony is the second best. It's better than written testimony. It's better than faxing in your testimony. It's better than just about any other thing except testifying in person. So that's what I wanted to say, is try to testify in person. If you can't do it, virtual testimony is the next best thing you can do. And whether you're testifying in person or virtual testimony, make sure that you know what the time limits are, you know what the parameters are, that you obey them scrupulously. If you have written materials, oh, there's Greg, he's got a USS Enterprise background. He's learning how to use his virtual device. So that's great. And as you're testifying, again, make sure that you have good production values. Make sure you're dressed appropriately, that your lighting is good so that they can see your face, that you have a virtual background if you need one, and that you've tested it out. You've got to test your microphone, your speakers, your virtual screen if you're going to use it. Make sure your software works. Make sure you've got the right software. Go to the school board's website, drill down, spend the time you need to find it. Find out how you testify virtually, what the parameters are. Again, obey them scrupulously. If you have questions, call the school district office and get answers to those questions. And as always, as you can see, preparation, you know, is going to lead you to success a lot more than doing things on the fly does. So do these things in advance. And if you do, you will find that you will be effective at virtual testimony. This is a lot like chess. If you've never played chess before and you say, Rich, teach me how to play the game of chess. You know, I can sit there and I can show you the moves, and I can teach you how to move the pieces and how to play in about 20 minutes. But it doesn't mean you're going to be very good at it. You know, the chess masters, they might learn the game in 20 minutes, but to master the game, they'll spend years competing against people that are better than they are. And likewise, when you virtually testify, the first couple times you do it, it might be a little bit halting, it might be a little bit awkward, but keep at it. You know, you can learn how to move the pieces on the chessboard, but you will get good through practice. And to practice, you have to just dive in and do it. And as a citizen, being involved in public life, nobody's going to laugh at you if you make a mistake. Nobody's going to laugh at you if the camera doesn't work. You know, these are things that happen. And the first couple of times you testify, you might have technical difficulties. You might get audio feedback because your volume's too high. There are things that can go wrong, but that's okay. Allow yourself to make mistakes if you're going to make mistakes. Just prepare as best you can. That's part of the learning process. When I was learning math problems as a little kid, I made mistakes in my multiplication tables all the time. But I kept at it and I learned my multiplication tables. The same is true with virtual testimony or just about any other skill that you have. And once you have it, you will have a very valuable skill in your toolbox. So that is the content of my training today. Donna, if you have any questions, please send them to me on chat window right now, or if you can, enable your microphone. Oh, here we go. Yeah, the Brady Bunch thing. That's great. So I'm going to give you a second here to struggle with your microphone just to make sure I don't leave you without questions. And while I'm doing that, you know, I think I'll go to San Francisco, as long as Greg and I are having fun with our virtual backgrounds.
Mine are better.
Yeah. Yeah, yours are better. And here's one from Voyager. You know, or no, this is from the surface of Mars. There's Earth. Have a lot of fun with this stuff. Okay, it doesn't look like Donna has any questions. So with that, I want to thank you very much for participating in this training today, Donna. And for those who are watching the recording, I want to thank you very much and look forward to next Saturday's training with Parents' Rights in Education and Western Liberty Network. Thank you. God bless.
Thanks, Rich.